Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaelene and today we're going to be talking about all the books that I DNF'd, did not finish in 2019. 2019 was the first year where I really dove into reading. I really got back into it after really not reading a whole lot in 10 years or more. So there were some books that I dove into that were probably past my level of reading comprehension at the time, or just books that were just kind of crappy and I did not want to waste my time with. There actually isn't that many books on this list, which I'm surprised by. So yeah, let's just jump right on into it. So in February, I DNF'd The Temple of My Familiar by Alice Walker at 50%. I read 50% of this book and now I know why people say when a book is too purple. This is why. The writing in this book is amazing. It's very lyrical, it's very metaphorical, and it's way past my reading comprehension at this moment in time. Like, I read this and I just, first of all, I don't even remember anything that I read from it, but I also don't even know like what was going on, what was happening. Like, I'm just so confused by this book. So yeah, I wasn't having a good time reading it. I was so confused. It wasn't fun for me to read, so I DNF'd it. Yeah, I typically try to get like 50%, 30% into a book before I DNF, so this one, yeah. Will I ever go back to this book and read it? I have no idea. Maybe, like, there's like a slight possibility, maybe if my reading comprehension became a lot better, and, you know, over time, you know, you read books and you practice reading and you kind of like read higher levels, and I do want to get at a point in my life where, you know, I can read more harder to read kind of books. So yeah, maybe, but definitely not in the foreseeable future. I did not rate this because I don't even know, like, I didn't know what was going on, so I just didn't rate it. So in March I DNF'd Robinson Crusoe by Defoe at 16%. Now, I have been wanting to read this book for like forever. I love the whole, you know, classic tale of like being stranded on an island and fighting for survival and all that. Like, that's like, I love that trope. This book was like written in the 1600s, and you can really tell, like, the writing is pretty much reading a foreign language. That's what it feels like. It's so jarring and so completely different. Like, you thought Shakespeare was bad. Nope. Read Defoe. It's 100 times worse. Yeah, so basically I just couldn't put up with the old English style of writing, and it was just, yeah. Also, one of the weird things about this was it was told from like kind of like a third person perspective most of the time, and I just didn't like that. It was weird. So yeah, it just did not keep my interest at all. It was so boring, and yeah, no, I was done with it. I didn't give it a rating because this is a book that I would like to read in the future at some point. Maybe there's a dumbed down version for me somewhere. Okay, I also DNF'd another book in the same month of March. I read The Rising Aten by Adian, Moreissey, and I DNF'd this at 40%. This was an arc that I had gotten from NetGalley. I love Egyptology. You guys, if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you know I love Egyptology. I love Egypt. I love everything about ancient Egyptians and that. Like, I love it. The biggest issue I had with this book was everything, really. So this is basically, it's set in ancient Egypt. You're following the story of three men who were all in jail together, and then it's like a generational saga. So there's like 3 different generations. I only got to the first 2. And so you're following these family stories. Your family, first of all, you're the first one, like the first like father whatever, and then like his son and then his son, you know, that kind of thing. So it's long, it's grueling, and it was extremely repetitive in what was happening. Like, you would go to a different generation and everything would just be regurgitated from what you've already read. And then to top it all off, there wasn't a good flow in the writing style itself. So there were so many facts thrown into this book about Egypt and stuff, while it also being a fiction story. And it just kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense. It didn't flow very well, it didn't mesh very well. And then the dialogue between the characters, it was horrendous. This was probably like one of the worst books I've read this year, although it's not going to be in my worst books I've read list. It totally should though, because this was just pretty terrible. Yeah. So also there were way too many timeline jumps. It was just jumping all over the place. Yeah, so I really wanted to like this book, but I just ended up really hating it. It was just so tedious. I DNF'd it at 41%, and because I was reviewing this book for NetGalley, I did have to get a rating, and I gave it 2 stars. So yeah, this is definitely not a book I would ever pick up again. It was so grueling to read. Oh my god. Okay, and then we're going into September, which my September DNF is probably a bit of a controversial one. I don't know. I haven't seen much about this book since the like release date when everybody was so hyped about it. So I DNF'd The Water Dancer by Ta-Neshi. This was also another book that I received from NetGalley to review, and I got, how far did I get into this? I got 50% into this, and this was so difficult for me to read because it was so boring. Oh my god, the story just didn't pick up at all. Typically when I'm reading these type of stories where something is very hard-hitting and like, it's supposed to be something that is going to be hard-hitting, typically, I know going in that it's going to be hard-hitting and might be slow, and typically I do enjoy those. I have read a few of those this year, but this one was just slow. Very slow. And I think this was mostly a mood problem for me. Like, I was just not in the mood for a slow read. It was September, we were getting into like colder weather. It's like a thriller season. So yeah, I liked the writing. It was like very lyrical and flowy, and I liked that, but it was just too slow paced for me. Yeah, so ultimately I DNF'd it because I was just torturing myself reading this. And yeah, I couldn't get into it, and I really wanted to because it was so hyped at the time, but then, yeah. Will I ever go back and read this one? To be honest, I don't know if I'm ever going to be in the mood to read this. I don't know. I would say right now that is unlikely, but I could totally change my mind. So I DNF'd it at 50%. Did I even give it a rating? I can't remember if I gave it a rating or not. Okay, and then for October, this is the only physical book on my TBR that I read that I DNF'd. The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I DNF'd this at what? 30%. So I read like 100 pages of this. The biggest issue I had with this was that, again, it was boring. It starts off in this here like kind of Dear Diary sort of format where they're journaling their day and their lives and their thoughts, and it was so boring. This is supposed to be a thriller. This could put me to sleep. I skipped ahead to like 200-ish pages to see if it sped up or anything got interesting. Nope, it didn't. And this also has like one of my most hated tropes, which is a woman who is like an alcoholic, she's an unreliable witness, blah blah blah. Those sort of tropes. Like, I hate those tropes in thrillers, and a lot of thrillers I read this year had that trope, and I hate it. I gave this 2 stars. It was torture. So, believe it or not, those were all the books that I DNF'd this year. I don't DNF books very often, but I do feel like there are some books that I probably should have DNF'd this year that I didn't. And I'm kind of mad about it because I just wasted my time reading it when I could have read something much better. But anyways, that is the end of the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. You can go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I will leave the links to my Instagram, my Goodreads, and my Twitter all in the description below. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!